friends, thanks so much for joining me today. This is the next in my set of Holy Priest meta videos where I'm talking about Holy Priest as a class and some of my thoughts about it, some hopefully tips that are helpful to maybe new Holy Priests or people that are trying to learn a little bit more about our class. And today my focus is going to be around special considerations when we're doing PvP. So as I mentioned before in some of my previous videos, when I started getting into Holy Priest and I started doing some Mythic Plus stuff, I found a lot of stuff that was out there for people that like to do Mythics and people that like to do raids and stat priorities and best in slot and all these sorts of things that really set you up very well to basically create a macro that pushes buttons 1, 3, 5, 7 over and over again, and boom, you're a top healer in your raid. The thing that I couldn't find was PvP and how the things that we hear from our favorite healers in raiding, how that relates to PvP or how it doesn't relate to PvP whatsoever. And so here's just a few of my thoughts that I found as I've gone through and done battlegrounds and worked on getting my PvP up and starting to do some arenas. So some of the things that I found is that the traits that we stack for raiding are not exactly the same traits that we want to stack when we're doing PvP. So with PvP, we really want to focus on, as I mentioned before, critical strike and mastery. So these are things that are going to give us passive buffs to our heals to allow us to keep up our friends inside the battlegrounds or the arenas or our whatever it is that we're doing, world PvP even. So I think the thing that really separates PvP from PvE is, and I may get some hate over this, but that we are facing intelligent opponents that will react to our behavior, and we have very little time to react to things that are occurring around us. Sometimes we don't have any time if we're getting stun locked, right? So we have moments to make very tough decisions that will never happen again. And that's one of the main differences that I found between PvP and PvE is that we can't pre-plan. We can't set things up and say that, you go here, I'm going to stand here, I'm going to cast this and this and this, and then everything's going to go well. And if I, for some reason, don't get that cast off, then, we wipe. With PvP, everything has to be fast. Everything has to be on target and quick. And we have a lot riding on us, especially if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that sometimes, and probably half the time, I'm the only healer in the entire battleground. So that could mean that I'm healing 5 people or 10 people by myself. So there really is very little room for not only predetermined sets, but also for things that you should know going in. Kind of have to feel for it, get a feel for it, and just do your best, as I mentioned before. So with that said, some of the considerations that I would give for you if you're considering doing Holy Priest PvP is that we are static healers. So again, we don't have the same mobility that a Resto Druid does. We don't have the same mobility and the same utility that a Holy Pally does. So we are going to be stuck in place while we are healing our group. We do have some nice utility in some areas, but very often we are going to be standing still. And what that means is that we need to be able to heal our friends from where we're standing at any given moment. So very often you'll see me, rather than being on the outskirts where I would normally be in PvE, I'm hanging back because I don't want to aggro the things or I don't want to get hit. I want to be right up pretty close to where the center of the action is. Not only because of the fact that I'm going to need to heal people that are running in 18 different directions, but also because I have some abilities like my Fear and my Halo, where if I drop that down, all of a sudden everyone around me is getting healed. Now the same thing with Divine Hymn. So I need to be within 40 yards of my allies to be able to use those abilities effectively. So we are not on the outskirts. We are up a little bit more closely than we would typically be in PvE from what I found. One of the other things that I found is that we cannot focus a single tank or tanks. We will have to focus whoever it is that's running in or whoever it is that is carrying the main objective. So as we've mentioned before, objectives are important, and fulfilling the objectives is the entire purpose of the battleground. So we need to be focused on the map at all times, and we need to be conscious of where those people are that will need the heals the most. So, for example, if we have to choose between healing the center in Warsong Gulch and healing the flag bearer, we should definitely be choosing the flag bearer over that, especially if we're the only healer in the battleground. So that's just a couple of the considerations that we need to make when we're running in and going into PvP. Now, with arena PvP, this is even more fast-paced, even less room for error. So what we need to do there is we need to go in with the idea that our fear is going to be used every single time that it's up. Our wings are going to be used every time that they're up. That we have a focus on ourselves more than in battlegrounds. So in battlegrounds, we're going to focus on healing others. In arenas, we're primarily going to be focused on healing ourselves. We are the squishiest target in most of the battlegrounds, especially when we're going up against, a team that may have a holy paladin or someone wearing plate with a shield, right? So even though we have focused will, we are still probably one of the squishiest targets in that entire arena. So the focus really needs to be more on yourself, because if you are not alive, your team is going to go down very, very quickly. So we need to heal ourselves as a priority. And that is another thing that differs from PvE as well. So that is a few considerations for PvP. PvP is really fun. I really enjoy it. It is challenging. Every single battleground is different. You never know what you're going to go into. I mean, it's always dynamic, and that's what I love about it versus PvE. PvE is static, and PvP is dynamic, and that is what makes it fun. That's also what makes it horrible and frustrating sometimes, but that's also what makes it really fun. So if you're thinking of getting into PvP, there's just a few things that I would like you to know. Go in, have fun, don't get too angry at yourself, and if you don't keep everybody up, again, sometimes it's one healer for 10 people. What can you do? Go in, have fun, try your best, be quick, be smart, and hopefully you win. That's all for today, and I'll talk to you soon.